The silence of the orbit station Sentinel-1 was deep and peaceful, broken only by the soft hum of machines working in the background. Around Earth, the station floated like a silent guardian, watching the black oceans of space for any sign of danger. For years, nothing had happened. No strange signals, no unknown ships, only the regular traffic of human colonies and allied species passing by. The officers on duty had fallen into a kind of quiet routine, alert but almost bored. Then, without warning, the peace shattered. A high-pitched alarm cut through the station like a knife, flashing red lights and sending a sharp vibration through the metal floors. Commander Elena Brooks dropped her coffee and sprinted toward the command center, already knowing from the sound of the alarm that this was no practice drill. Officers scrambled to their stations, hands flying across controls, faces pale with fear and confusion. On the main screen, a ship appeared, an enormous vessel, speeding toward Earth faster than any recorded speed before. What made it worse was that the ship was unknown. Its shape didn't match any design in human or alien records. No identification signals were coming from it. It was as if the ship had appeared from nowhere, from outside the reach of all scanners and patrols. Commander Brooks stood still for a moment, staring at the screen. The ship looked like a giant blade, dark against the stars, with edges that seemed to shimmer as if the material wasn't completely solid. She turned sharply and ordered full station lockdown, immediate alert to Earth's Defense Command, and full power to the sensors. Every second counted. In the control room, tension grew thick as officers worked to gather information, but the ship gave nothing away. No communication, no energy signature that made sense, no familiar technology. It was just moving fast, straight toward Earth's orbit. The decision was made quickly. Commander Brooks knew they couldn't risk waiting. If this was a threat, Earth needed time to react. She ordered an urgent message to be sent to all human fleets, pulling ships from colonies, trading routes, and defense posts. Humanity had built strong fleets over the years, but there was always the fear at the back of every mind. What if something bigger came? Something they weren't ready for. Within minutes, images and videos of the ship flooded every secure channel. Experts from across the solar system were pulled into emergency meetings. In secret councils and military rooms, the debate grew fierce. Some thought it could be a lost ancient probe from a dead race, drifting harmlessly toward Earth. Others feared it was a weapon, a hidden threat designed to look silent until it was too late. What disturbed everyone the most was the ship's design. It didn't look abandoned. It didn't look broken. It looked like it was alive, with parts that shifted slowly, like breathing. As it came closer, smaller stations along its path shut down their outer defenses, unwilling to risk any aggression. Humanity had fought wars before, even against other species, but this was different. This was unknown, and nothing scared people more than the unknown. Commander Brooks moved quickly, coordinating with Earth's Defense Command to plan a response. Ships were to be launched to intercept the unknown vessel at a safe distance, but secretly everyone knew that safe might not exist here. Back in the command center, the mood was heavy. Officers whispered to each other, some wondering if they were witnessing the beginning of a new war, others quietly asking if humanity had made a mistake somewhere in reaching for the stars. Still, orders were orders, and the fleets prepared. The fastest interceptors were loaded with weapons and diplomats, a strange combination that showed how confused and desperate Earth's leaders were. They wanted peace, but they feared attack. Across Earth itself, governments ordered quiet evacuations of major cities, just in case. Families were told it was a civilian safety exercise, but many didn't believe it. In the hearts of the people, fear grew. As the hours passed, the ship continued its silent journey, getting closer and closer. Attempts to scan inside the ship failed. Attempts to send messages in every known language failed. It was like talking to a wall. Commander Brooks watched the data with growing unease. Whatever the ship was, it was either ignoring them completely or it didn't recognize anything humanity was trying. That thought was terrifying. Because if it didn't recognize them, it meant humanity was facing something so different, so outside their experience, that communication might not even be possible. She ordered a deeper analysis, bringing in experts in ancient languages, xenotechnology, even human psychology, hoping that someone might find a pattern, a clue. But the ship gave them nothing. It just moved. Soon, Earth's ships launched into space, dozens of them racing to position themselves between Earth and the unknown. Captain Darren Cole led the flagship Resolute, carrying the highest-ranking officers and the first set of envoys. If contact could be made, it would happen here. If battle began, they were the first line of defense and the first to fall. As the Resolute and her sister ships sped through space, humans across Earth and its colonies watched news updates with breath held tight in their chests. Schools were closed. Spaceports were locked down. People stood outside at night, staring up at the stars, wondering if tomorrow would still come. Commander Brooks remained calm on the surface, but deep inside, a storm raged. She had trained her whole life for threats, for unknown dangers, but now that it was here, she realized nothing could prepare someone fully for the real moment. She gave quiet orders, sharp and clear, pushing her people to be ready for anything. And even as fear scratched at the edges of her mind, a strange pride rose too. Humanity had come far. They had reached the stars. They had survived wars, disasters, and challenges that would have destroyed weaker races. If this was a test, then she would make sure they answered it the human way, standing tall, refusing to run, facing the unknown. ON.AS The unknown ship crossed into the final defensive perimeter. The Resolute sent one last transmission, a simple message in all known languages, declaring peace and offering dialogue. For a moment, there was silence. Total, aching silence. Then, without warning, the unknown ship slowed. Its edges shimmered more violently, and a pulse of light flashed from its core. No one knew what it meant. Was it a weapon charging? Was it a greeting? Commander Brooks leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen, heart pounding in her chest. Across Earth, millions watched their screens, waiting, breathless. At that moment, everyone from the oldest generals to the youngest children understood one truth: history was happening now. The unknown had arrived, and humanity would never be the same again. The pulse of light from the unknown ship left the human fleets frozen in place, uncertain whether to fire or flee. It wasn't an attack, at least not yet, but it wasn't a signal they could understand either. Commander Elena Brooks, watching from Sentinel-1 station, tightened her fists behind her back, keeping her voice steady as she ordered every ship to hold fire until she gave the command. Humanity had survived because they learned to be patient as well as brave. On board the flagship Resolute, Captain Darren Cole stared at the huge dark vessel on the screen, its form still shifting slightly as though it was made of something not quite real. Aboard the bridge, everyone felt the same strange sensation deep in their bones, a feeling like standing too close to something ancient and powerful, something that didn't belong to the world they knew. The unknown ship hovered now, still at a distance, but clearly watching, or at least aware of the human presence. The officers whispered the name Ghost Ship among themselves because it moved like a spirit, soundless and untouchable, and because no one knew where it had come from. The scientists back on Earth worked furiously to analyze the pulse of light, searching for a pattern, a meaning hidden in the frequency or the color. They found nothing they could explain. Some believed it was a test, a way to see how humanity would respond, while others whispered darker theories, that it was a countdown, a silent warning before disaster. Commander Brooks didn't have the luxury of guessing. She had to act, and she had to act wisely. She ordered Captain Cole to launch a small, unarmed drone toward the ship, loaded with peaceful greetings in every major language, even in old Earth tongues no longer spoken. As the drone floated forward, a breathless silence fell over every human ship, every command station, and every living room tuned into the secret broadcasts now leaking into the public. People watched with wide eyes as the little machine crossed the space between life and mystery. When the drone reached the ghost ship, it disappeared. No explosion, no reaction, no warning. One moment it was there, floating bravely toward the unknown, and the next it was simply gone, as if swallowed by the darkness itself. A wave of fear rolled through the human fleets. Was the ship alive? Was it absorbing anything that touched it? Commander Brooks ordered all ships to retreat slightly, keeping their distance, but making it clear they weren't running. Humanity would not show fear even when facing something beyond their understanding. Then, just when it seemed the ghost ship would remain silent forever, a signal came through. It wasn't a language. It wasn't a code. It was a voice, a human voice. Across all channels, the same voice spoke in perfect old Earth English. Do not be afraid. We are the Watchers. We are the Guardians. We are not your enemies. The voice was cold, calm, and emotionless, like a recording, but somehow it carried a weight that chilled everyone who heard it. On Earth, leaders demanded answers. Who were the Watchers? Why had no one heard of them before? Was this a trick by some enemy? A hidden attack disguised as a miracle? Commander Brooks sent a message back through all channels, requesting more information, asking what the Watchers wanted, but there was no reply. Only silence again, heavy and full of hidden meaning. Then strange things began to happen. Ships reported seeing brief flashes of light moving across their hulls, like scanning beams, but no damage was found. Data files were copied at impossible speeds, but nothing was deleted or altered. It was as if the ghost ship was studying them, reading their history, their strength, their fears. Captain Cole and his officers struggled to keep calm as systems flickered and small malfunctions rippled through their ships. No attacks, no harm, just interference. Humanity stood face to face with a presence that was not interested in war, not interested in peace negotiations, but simply watching. As hours turned into a full day, tensions rose dangerously high. Some captains, more aggressive and frightened, demanded permission to fire upon the ghost ship. They argued that if humanity showed weakness, it would be conquered. Commander Brooks faced one of the hardest decisions of her career. To attack first was to risk a war they might not survive. To do nothing was to gamble the safety of Earth itself. In a private council with Earth's highest leaders, Brooks argued for patience. She believed the ghost ship, whatever it was not here to destroy them, not yet. And she warned them that the first mistake could be the last. Meanwhile, ordinary people across Earth and the colonies fell into a strange state of awe and fear. Some prayed, believing the Watchers were angels or gods. Others protested, demanding their governments act before it was too late. Conspiracy theories exploded, wild stories of secret alliances, ancient prophecies, and lost human ancestors returning from the stars. Humanity had always feared the dark beyond the stars, and now that darkness had come knocking on their door. Late into the second night, when most human fleets drifted in tense silence around the ghost ship, something changed. The dark vessel moved for the first time in hours, not attacking, but opening. A section of its surface peeled away like the petals of a black flower, revealing an interior of deep silver light. From the opening, a smaller ship emerged, moving slowly toward the human fleet. Unlike the giant ghost ship, this smaller craft was clear and sharp, shaped like an arrowhead and shimmering with energy. It made no aggressive moves, but its presence felt heavy, like a storm gathering before the first crack of thunder. Commander Brooks, trusting her instincts, ordered Captain Cole to hold fire and prepare for boarding parties. She believed, or perhaps hoped, that this was an invitation. A test. She handpicked a team of the best soldiers, scientists, and diplomats, sending them to meet the unknown in peace. As the boarding team approached the smaller ship, the entire human fleet and every station on Earth watched, hearts pounding. No one knew what would happen when the two sides finally touched. No one knew if they were reaching out to an ally or walking into the jaws of an ancient enemy. The boarding ship docked with the smaller vessel easily, almost as if the ghost ship itself was helping. The team entered cautiously, weapons lowered but ready. Inside, they found something they could hardly believe. The ship was filled with images, holographic pictures of Earth, not as it was now, but thousands of years ago. Ancient forests, oceans untouched by cities, skies without pollution. And among these images, humans walked but not modern humans. These were older, taller, and somehow both familiar and alien. At the center of the ship was a single figure, cloaked in silver light, waiting for them. The figure spoke without moving its lips, its voice echoing directly into the minds of the boarding team. It said, "You are the lost children. We have returned to guide you or to judge you." The team stood frozen, caught between wonder and terror. Outside, across all ships and across Earth, the message was broadcast in every language. Humanity was no longer alone. A ghost from nowhere had come, and it carried the power to change everything forever. The meeting rooms on Earth's main command station were filled with heavy silence, broken only by the soft hum of distant machines. High-ranking generals, top scientists, and elected leaders sat around the long table, their faces tight with worry and determination. Ever since the appearance of the Watchers and the Ghost Ship, humanity had been walking a thin line between survival and extinction. Every decision a gamble against forces they barely understood. But now, after weeks of strange signals, mysterious studies, and tense standoffs, Earth's leaders had come to one conclusion: doing nothing was no longer an option. Humanity could not remain the frightened child, waiting to be judged. They needed to show they were strong, capable, and unafraid of the unknown. It was time for a bold move. Commander Elena Brooks, selected to lead the mission, stood at the front of the room, her voice steady as she outlined the plan. They would send a team directly onto the Watcher's ship, not the smaller vessel they had studied, but the main dark ship itself. No weapons would be drawn unless necessary. Their mission was to plant a beacon, a symbol carrying humanity's message of strength and willingness to fight for its future if pushed. It was a dangerous step, but Brooks knew that hesitation now would only convince the Watchers that humanity was weak prey. The crew chosen for the mission were the best Earth had ever trained soldiers hardened by battles on distant colonies, scientists who had solved the mysteries of alien ruins, and diplomats who had calmed rebellions with only their words. They trained in silence, knowing their chance of survival was slim, but knowing, too, that failure could doom billions. Across the world, the media was locked out. The mission was kept secret from the public to prevent panic. Only a handful of people knew that humanity was preparing to knock on the door of something older and more powerful than their entire history. The chosen ship, the Valor, was small, fast, and built for deep space missions, its hull lined with stealth technology and emergency countermeasures. As it launched from Sentinel-1, every heart on Earth beat faster. Even those who didn't know why they felt a chill in the air that night. The ghost ship loomed larger as the Valor approached, its black, shifting surface reflecting no light, swallowing stars into its impossible form. Every system on the Valor flickered as they drew close, navigation struggling to maintain stability. The ship's AI began to pick up strange signals, whispers of data streams not meant for human minds, echoes of languages that twisted in the air like half-remembered dreams. Captain Aria Chen, leading the team, kept her focus sharp, ordering her crew to lock down systems and push forward. They reached the side of the massive ship, searching for a docking point, but there were no doors, no ports, no sign that entry was even possible. Still, they had prepared for this. Using a combination of plasma cutters and gravitic tethers, they created a controlled breach, opening a narrow path into the darkness beyond. Inside, the ship was even stranger than expected. The walls were smooth and cold, glowing faintly from within, pulsing like the veins of some great creature. The air was breathable, though thick and heavy, filled with the scent of iron and old storms. The team moved carefully, marking their path, while the beacon shaped like a small silver sphere was cradled in Captain Chen's gloved hands. Their goal was to reach what the analysts believed to be the ship's core, a place of energy so vast it could be detected from orbit. If they planted the beacon there, humanity's message would echo directly into the heart of the Watcher's technology. As they ventured deeper, they encountered strange structures, towering pillars that hummed with hidden life, floating platforms that moved without visible support, shifting corridors that seemed to bend and change when not directly observed. The team recorded everything, knowing even the smallest discovery could reshape human understanding of the universe. But the deeper they went, the stronger the feeling of being watched became. It was not just fear, it was a sense of vast, silent intelligence focused entirely on them, studying, waiting. Then they found at the core. It was a vast chamber, larger than any stadium on Earth, filled with spiraling energy and suspended crystals that spun slowly in the air. In the center floated a single orb, black as midnight, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Captain Chen stepped forward, beacon in hand, when suddenly the chamber lit up and a figure appeared. It was human or almost human, wearing a suit of silver and black, its face hidden behind a smooth mask. The figure spoke, not with words, but directly into their minds. "You are brave," it said, the voice neither kind nor cruel, but something older and colder. "Few have dared to enter the heart of the Watchers. Fewer have survived." Captain Chen held her ground, planting the beacon on the platform before her. It activated instantly, sending a brilliant pulse of light upward, coding Earth's message into the very air. "We are not your prey. We are not your servants. We will stand. We will fight if we must." The masked figure tilted its head slightly, as if considering, then simply vanished. The walls around them began to hum louder, the light growing blindingly bright. Captain Chen ordered a full retreat, and the team raced back through the twisting halls, systems crashing around them as the ship responded to the intrusion. The Valor barely made it out, systems failing one after another as they pushed to a safe distance. Behind them, the ghost ship pulsed with new colors, flashes of gold and crimson bleeding across its surface. Humanity had delivered its message, and the Watchers had heard it. As the Valor docked with Sentinel-1, the world waited breathlessly for what would come next. For a moment, everything was still. Then, without warning, the ghost ship moved, faster than anything recorded by human sensors, disappearing into deep space. But it was not retreat. It was something else. Across human space, ancient satellites and listening posts began picking up signals, thousands of unknown ships stirring from hidden places, old relics activating after centuries of silence. Commander Brooks stood watching the main screen, knowing humanity had just woken something vast and terrible. But she also knew this: humanity had faced the darkness and declared its will to survive. Whatever was coming, they would meet it together, heads high, hearts steady. Because sometimes, the boldest move was the only choice left, and humanity had chosen to stand. Captain Erin Wallace had seen many strange things in her years of service among the stars, but nothing had prepared her for what was unfolding now. Her ship, the Dauntless, had been on a simple patrol mission along the edges of explored human space, an area thought to be quiet and safe, when a strange beacon signal had appeared out of nowhere, pulsing with a strange frequency that no human technology could match. It was not a distress call, nor a warning, but something far more curious: a direct invitation. Against her better judgment, and despite the crew's concerns, Captain Wallace made the decision to investigate, driven by the deep sense that something important waited for them beyond the ordinary. As the Dauntless followed the signal through a barely stable wormhole, the stars around them shifted, and they found themselves in a sector that did not exist on any human map, a place where the very fabric of reality seemed different, heavier, older, filled with a quiet pressure that made the skin crawl. Before them floated a structure unlike anything they had ever seen, an enormous, twisting monument of black and gold, suspended in the void without any visible means of support, emitting slow, deliberate pulses of light that seemed almost alive. A the crew prepared for poems that made no sense. Crew members dreamed of vast deserts under alien stars, hearing whispers that spoke in voices not their own. Tension rose quickly, but Captain Wallace held the crew together, pushing forward because something deep inside her told her that this was not an accident or a trap, it was a test. Humanity had pushed itself across the galaxy with courage and boldness, but now, it seemed, something ancient wanted to see if they were truly ready to stand among the great powers of the universe. As they prepared to board the alien monument, a voice, clear and cold, echoed across their communication systems, speaking in perfect English. "Step forward, children of Earth," it said. "Accept the challenge or turn away forever. But know that once you begin, there is no retreat." Captain Wallace chose to accept, knowing that humanity could not afford to turn its back on whatever this was. She led a team onto the monument, entering through an archway that opened silently as they approached. Inside, the structure defied all laws of physics, with endless staircases, floating bridges, and walls that shimmered like water. They moved carefully, each step seeming to echo not just through space, but through time itself. At the center of the monument, they found a great arena, an ancient colosseum under a roof of swirling stars, where a single figure waited. It looked human, but was not taller, more perfect, with silver eyes that reflected the dreams and fears of those who looked into them. "One must face the trial," the figure said, its voice deep and calm. "One must stand alone, with nothing but their will. Only then shall humanity's worth be known." Captain Wallace volunteered herself immediately, knowing that leadership meant taking the first and hardest step. She stepped into the arena as the walls shimmered and reality itself seemed to twist. Suddenly, she was no longer in the Colosseum, but standing in the middle of a dead world, its surface cracked and burning under a black sun. Shadows moved at the edges of her vision, whispering doubts and fears. She knew instantly that this was the true challenge, not a battle of strength, but of spirit. The shadows tried to break her with visions of failure, images of Earth burning, of her crew dying, of herself lost and forgotten. But Captain Wallace, hardened by years of struggle and sacrifice, stood firm. She remembered the faces of those she led, the dreams of a better future, the unbreakable will of her people. She pushed through the illusions, step by painful step, her body growing weaker, but her spirit burning brighter. After what felt like days but might have been only minutes, the shadows screamed and faded, and Captain Wallace found herself back in the arena, breathing hard but standing tall. The silver-eyed figure nodded once, a gesture of respect. "You have passed," it said. "Your people are strong in heart, fierce in hope. You may return with this knowledge. You are not alone, and the galaxy has begun to watch." As the team hurried back to the Dauntless, the monument began to fade, its purpose complete. The ship barely escaped the collapsing wormhole, emerging back into human space, battered but alive. The signal that had first drawn them was gone, replaced by a quiet emptiness. Back on Earth, when Captain Wallace and her crew reported their experience, debate raged among scientists, politicians, and scholars. Was this a warning? An invitation? A sign of something greater awakening? The only certainty was that humanity had been tested and had passed. Something ancient had taken notice of them, and the next steps would not be easy. But for the first time in history, humanity knew that its courage, its determination, and its unbreakable will had earned it a place in the great story of the stars. Captain Wallace stood quietly in her office, watching the stars through the wide windows, knowing that greater challenges lay ahead and feeling no fear. Humanity was ready to face whatever came next, not because they were the strongest nor the smartest, but because they had something no shadow, no ancient being, could ever destroy: the courage to stand against the unknown and the heart to fight for a future they had yet to fully imagine. For centuries, humanity believed they were alone, explorers of a silent universe with only their dreams to keep them company. But hidden deep beneath the cracked surface of an abandoned planet named Demaris, something ancient waited in silence, untouched by time, forgotten by the stars, until the day when the exploration ship Venture's Pride crash-landed there after a violent meteor storm. Captain Elias Monroe, a man known for his sharp mind and stubborn will, led his battered crew through the dead forests of the planet, searching for shelter, unaware that their footsteps were waking something buried long before human history had even begun. The ground itself seemed to pulse under their boots, and strange symbols flickered in the shadows between the broken stones, like the planet was trying to whisper secrets lost to memory. As the team set up temporary shelter inside a massive cave system, one of the engineers, a young woman named Lynn Carter, discovered a wall that wasn't natural. It was smooth, metallic, humming faintly, like a living heart. She called for the captain, and together they unearthed the great door covered in carvings that glowed softly when touched, carvings that none of their translators could explain, yet felt disturbingly familiar, as if written in the forgotten dreams of mankind itself. Ignoring the warnings of fear whispered by their instincts, driven by the desperate need for survival and the aching curiosity that had always defined humanity, they activated the door, which opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the mountains like the roar of an awakening beast. Inside lay a massive hall filled with ancient machines, statues of unknown figures, and a single towering structure at its center, a crystalline sarcophagus that seemed to pulse with the faint beat of a heart. As the crew approached, the air grew thicker, charged with a strange energy that made their skin crawl. but also filled their minds with half-formed images of golden cities, starships the size of continents, and wars fought with weapons of unimaginable power. Captain Monroe, his heart pounding, touched the sarcophagus, and at once the entire complex seemed to shudder and come alive, lights flaring to life, machines stirring, and a voice, soft but powerful, filling the chamber. "Heirs of our legacy," the voice said, "the time has come to awaken what was left behind." Before anyone could react, the sarcophagus cracked open, and a figure stepped out, human in shape, but larger, wrapped in strange armor that shifted like liquid metal, eyes burning with the knowledge of ages. The figure spoke in a language older than Earth itself, yet somehow the crew understood. It introduced itself as Kylar, guardian of the legacy, protector of a gift left by a civilization so ancient that its name had been lost even to the stars. Humanity, Kalar explained, was not born alone. They were the descendants of a forgotten alliance, a scattered seed meant to survive the fall of empires and someday reclaim their inheritance. The awakening of the legacy meant that the time had come for humanity to step into a larger, more dangerous universe, one filled with enemies who had once feared the power of those ancient ancestors and would surely rise again now that the old blood stirred. Captain Monroe and his crew listened in stunned silence as Keller showed them visions of the past wars that shattered galaxies, alliances of thousands of worlds standing together against nightmares that could devour stars, and the final desperate act of hiding their greatest treasures on distant worlds, hoping that someday their children would find them. Humanity was not a mistake. They were a plan, a hope that the light would rise again after the darkness. But with the awakening of the legacy came great risk, for ancient enemies still watched the stars, and the signal of awakening would not go unnoticed for long. The crew realized that their crash had not been an accident, but a pull of fate, a call to duty written into their very blood. With Kalar's help, they accessed the hidden vaults of the complex, discovering blueprints for technology far beyond anything Earth had ever dreamed of: ships that could bend time, weapons that could defend against entire fleets, and knowledge that could lift humanity into the ranks of the true powers of the galaxy. But there was no time for celebration. The signal of awakening had already reached others, and Kalar warned that hunters would come, ancient foes that had slept in the dark, waiting for the day when the old blood would rise again so they could crush it before it could become a threat. Captain Monroe faced a terrible choice: return quietly to Earth with what they had found and hope to prepare in secret, or stand openly and declare that humanity had awakened, daring their enemies to come, showing that they would not hide or bow. After a long, heavy silence, Monroe made the only choice his heart could allow. Humanity had been made to stand, to fight, to rise against the impossible. They would not crawl back into the dark. They would meet the coming storm with open eyes and ready hands. The Venture's pride, repaired with the help of the ancient machines, rose into the sky once more, carrying with it the legacy of 1,000 forgotten worlds and the unbreakable spirit of Earth. Back on Earth, when the ship finally returned, the governments of humanity argued and fought as they always did, afraid of the dangers, tempted by the power, unsure whether to embrace the legacy or fear it. But among the people, a fire spread, a hunger to reach beyond, to step into the larger world waiting for them. Monroe's story inspired a new movement, one that could not be stopped by fear or